What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. This one has been brewing for a while. I didn't know if it was absolutely necessary, but with the amount of DMs and PMs and emails and then I get it. It's needed. And I'm here to accommodate. So we gotta talk Menasor, we gotta talk Stunticons. And I have some pretty good news. I don't really have much to touch on from our previous week. I can pretty much hit the ground running. I love that people took to the For Dummies episode, and you've seen two by this point. I've done this Sit Down Saturday a little early. But just to clarify, we're not calling you dummies. We are the dummies. The hosts of that show are the dummies. We're all dumb in our own ways. But it's what makes for a few laughs, I hope. So don't take offense. Just try not to take offense to anything. Learn to let it roll. I've had to do it, for sure. So, Stunticons. Let me start by saying this. The Stunticons are my favorite Transformers. I'll tell you why. Dead End, specifically, is my favorite Transformer character. Period. I often get asked that question. Let me explain why. Loyalty is something that I treasure above all. I am an extremely loyal person. I'm loyal to my family. I'm loyal to my friends. I'm loyal to this channel. I'm loyal to the viewers. I'm just a loyal dude. I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I actually caught it. I just do things. And what I love about the Stunticons is they are loyal to each other. They remind me of the Dinobots in that way, where their loyalty starts with their crew. I love in Starscream's Brigade when the Stunticons are debating as to whether or not to step in and save Megatron. And Dead End's mentality is like, who cares? Decepticon problems aren't necessarily our problems. Stunticon problems are our problems. And that's my kind of guy. I think they're loyal to the Decepticon cause, but I think they're loyal to the Decepticon cause as a secondary measure. First and foremost is their crew. That's why I take to them. I've always been a crew guy. I've always been a person who values teamwork. I know that might be taking that concept of the cartoon a little bit too deeply, but that's my nature. So that's that. As a result, I have many representations of the Stunticon. I have the G1, I have Fans Project set, I have the Transformers animated set, I have the Combiner Wars set, and I even have the Combiner Wars G2 set. I have the Transformission set. I have a few odds and ends, Stunticon related. I'm getting the X-Transbot set. I'm getting the DX9 set. I'm getting the Fans Toy set. So I'm in. But people want to know which set to get. And this really comes down to two things: scale and aesthetic. And those two things are extremely subjective. So it's hard for me to answer that for you. We can't talk about quality of build yet because for the most part, we haven't been able to put it together. And we can only talk about aesthetics so much because we haven't really seen full images. So this is going to take some leaps of faith. It's going to take some speculation. It's going to take us being willing to be wrong, which most people are very scared to do. But not me. I'm so used to being wrong, it's like second nature. So, what are the options? Transformission, XTB, DX9, Fans Toys. And we also have this Rising Force. Let me go ahead and say this. I wish them the best, but in terms of first impressions, we're gonna leave them out of this conversation because I'm not sure they can hang. We've seen very little of what they have to offer, and what they have to offer aesthetically doesn't seem to hold up to any of the other ones aforementioned. And hopefully this video will explain why. Transformission, aesthetically, goes for the IDW look. The robots are masterpiece scale. The carbots line up pretty much with your MP cars, etc. They look spot on. They're extremely well made individually. The combined mode leaves a lot to be desired. It looks pretty, but build-wise, it has issues. And I know there's threads and this and that, and you can cut and paste and move it around and get a screwdriver and wrench and a ratchet. And look, relax. We're not going to talk about what you can do to make something good. We're going to talk about what's good. And the robots are great. The car modes are great. It all looks amazing. Even the combined mode looks top shelf. It just has some build issues. They're averagely priced for the third-party market, about what you would expect. And individually, they're knockout figures. Combined mode, you can probably get it to work for a display. The functionality of it isn't the best. Moving on in the aesthetics. X-Transbots. Aesthetically, looks great. The first release and the second one, which I should have soon, I'm just waiting on that shipping notice from GCI, looks great. The reputation of both is high. It's one of the best built XTB figures I've ever messed with. They're also putting screws to a knockoff company that stole their design, and I like that. All of the designs look very G1. Extreme cartoon representation. Now that comes down to a matter of subjectivity. How toon is too toon? And can it be too tuned for you? That's something that you can only answer. I prefer a little bit more, but I can't deny that they knocked out exactly what they were attempting to do. The combined mode also looks great, looks a little bit off from the cartoon representation, but the cartoon representation in and of itself is inconsistent. So we have to keep that in mind also. And Menasor is one of those characters that through the years has kind of taken on a life of his own, and people feel away. Do you want the cars in the front? Do you want the cars in the back? Do you like all those sorts of things? And those are questions you can only answer for yourself. That sort of thing is a priority that only you can prioritize. Some people, that's going to be high up on the list. Some people, it's going to be lower on the list. Some people, the build is going to be high up on the list. Some people, it's going to be lower on the list. Some people, the playability, etc., etc., etc. But everything about this set looks great, subjectively speaking. Then we have the DX9. Once again, everything seems to be lining up well. There's even been a picture of part of it combined floating around, at least the Motor Master element, and it looks great. The robots look great. However, they are bigger. That could be a problem for some. Once again, it's about priority and how you see scale and how that works for you. But everything that we've seen from DX9 regarding these looks great. The build of the first one, I'll be honest, is not as solid as the build of the X-Transbots one. But in terms of quality of figure, the way it presents, definitely in that same pocket. They both have come out of the gate with strong releases on their initial figure. Both. But one is significantly larger, and that might be an issue for you. Also, one is white and one is that crack rock beige. That might be an issue for you. Something to consider. Now, those two purchases were easy for me because I want one for bot and one for combiner. But then the monkey wrench came, and the monkey wrench is Fans Toys. And they've done what they always do, which is present sculpts that look out of this world. What I like about Fans Toys is they capture the G1 characterization and they give it an element of maturity. I've said this 1,000 times, but it's not as though it's cartoon accurate. It's like if the cartoon were real, this is how it would look. And I love that. Now these, once again, seem to be a bit larger. And we don't have any of these to talk about yet. And Fans Toys engineering has been a bit burdensome recently. So there is questions as to the figures holding up through the wear and tear you have to put them through to get them in and out of combine mode. Playability becomes a factor in this set, especially if you plan on breaking it down and building it up and breaking it down and building it up over and over and over again. Durability becomes a factor. But Fans Toys has a pretty stellar reputation for the build of their figures. There's been misses along the way, there's no doubt about it. But overall, but not necessarily a great playability. Like say an MMC, which usually has a great playability. Make Toys usually has a great playability. Fans Toys usually has a great display presence. They're a bit different that way. But the sculpts look out of this world. However, we haven't seen the combined form, so that's a big X factor. And now we have to move on to what to me matters the most, which is scale. And this is once again subjective and only you can answer it for yourself, because it's how you want your collection to be displayed. It's how you want these representations of figures and characters to work for your shelves, to work for your house, to work for your room. Some of it is a matter of logistics. I've seen people that are like, man, I just can't fit this thing in there. And that's valid. That's fine. So a lot of this you'll only be able to answer for yourself, but we need to get into the nitty gritty, and now I'm going to talk about it. This is the money shot. Now, these measurements are only estimations. They're approximates. So keep that in mind. There's going to be some variation between stance, between the person measuring, but I think for our purposes, it'll work just fine. In my opinion, your masterpiece combiners can go one of three ways. They can go with the old school kind of traditional Warbitron TFC scale, they can go with the Toy World scale, or they can go with the Unique Toys Bruticus scale. They're all different, and I think we're going to get options for all of them the way that the landscape is shaping up. Now let's talk. Fans Toys Omega Supreme is approximately 22 inches. Toy World's Devastator is approximately 20 inches. Zeta Toys Bruticus is approximately 20.5 inches. And the X-Transbots at 19.2 inches. DX9 is 50 centimeters, which is 19.6 inches. Transformission is 14.5 inches. Unique Toys Bruticus is 17 inches. And Fans Toys says that their Menasor is going to be 2 centimeters shy of their Omega, which would make it about 20.8 inches. So let's line them up. This is the thing about scale. Some of these differences may not seem extreme, but when we looked at Unique Toys Bruticus next to Toy World Devastator, 3 inches can throw the proportions way off in terms of how 2 figures look next to each other when they're supposed to be relatively the same size, if that's how you see it. So if we use Toy World as our base at 20, and Zeta looks good next to it at 20.5. I think the Fans Toys one will look good next to it at 20.8. I also think the DX9 will look good next to it at 19.6. The XTB at 19.2, I'm not sure is going to work. However, it'll probably look good next to the UT Bruticus at 17. And then the Transformission one mainly works with the Warbitron TFC line. So in short, that's how I see the scale. If you want to match up with the Toy World scale, your choices are DX9 or Fans Toys at this moment. If you want to match up with the Unique Toys Bruticus scale, you should go with the X-Transbots for Menasor at this moment. And if you want to match up with the general line of combiners that came out prior, the TFCs, the Warbitrons, the Generation Toys, etc., the Transformission is going to fit in best with that scale. I know the Toy World Devastator and the X-Transbots Menasor is going to be a point of contention. I know that that inch isn't going to bother many people. I'm just saying I think proportionately it could throw it off. And that's only if you see the combiners as being roughly about the same size, which I do. There's some people that are like, well, I see Menasor as extremely small. Then cool, go with an extremely small representation. But that's not how I see it, so that's not what I'm talking about. But you should have the information here to make your own decision accordingly. So now, I will tell you my plan. That doesn't mean it's the best plan. It doesn't mean it'll work out. It doesn't mean anything. It's just what I'm throwing the dice on. And that is this. I'm getting DX9 for my combine mode. At 19.6, he'll be slightly shorter than Devastator and about an inch shorter than Bruticus, and I'm good with that. For my robot mode, I'm going with Fans Toys because I think it looks amazing in robot mode. And the X-Transbots doesn't really fit with my collection, but I love the Stunticons and I love the move that Keith did regarding that set, so I'll be putting those in my alt mode, and I'll have 3 representations of those characters. They happen to be my favorite characters, so it'll all work out for me. Now, I filmed most of this before I broke my flip out, so that does change things for me a bit. Let's talk about it a little bit more. I feel like there's more to unpack. The size of the Fans Toys robots is going to bother people, and I get that. It's not going to bother me. I'm good with it. But I think some of that comes down to how you display your figures. I don't have my Stunticons anywhere near my Carbots from the Ark. They stand on their own shelf with the Combaticons. Therefore, the size difference isn't going to show in the same manner. Because I'm just speculating. I have no idea. So many people have asked for this video that I have to speculate because no one seems to be satisfied with saying, look, I don't know yet. It's too early to say. But let's say that I am unhappy with how big they turn out being. I always have the X-Transbots to fall back on because I already know that Menasor isn't the one that I want in terms of size. And I know it's only an inch short, but you go ahead and make me a list of things you're willing to sacrifice an inch on. I'll wait. But as always, scale is in the eye of the beholder, so you have to do what feels best for you. That's my answer to the question. You have to answer this question for yourself, though, because it depends on what you prioritize in terms of scale, aesthetic, and how you're going to display it. And unfortunately, that's the real answer to the question here. It's not which one to go with, it's which one is right for you for your purposes. Now, before we close, I want to talk about one thing. I think when it comes to this stuff, there are 2 types of people. And one's not any better than the other. It's just the way it is. And I'm talking about those that actually play a part in the community in some way, somehow. Communicating on a board or a forum or a thread or whatever. Speaking of which, when I talk about TFW, I'm usually talking about the boards. I'm not talking about the people that run the site. I've met some of those people off the site, and they're gentlemen. I think there are people in this fandom that are toy first, community second. And then there are other people that are community first and toy second. One's not better than the other. It's just the way people are. I subscribe to the latter. And as a result, I want you guys to check out his site. There's a member of our community who we could all help out. I want you guys to check out Kennedy's Village. The link is in the description to all their social media and their website. But this is a member of our community who has a young daughter afflicted with a disease that is in need of help and trying to raise awareness. If you could take a second out of your day to check it out, I think you might be one of the latter as well. I wish that family the best, which is the same thing I wish for all of you, even if you wish me the opposite. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.